I feel like there's only a few places where scarcity ever comes from. In your case, it seems to come from urgency. And like I said, I don't think this is an issue with you trusting your fundamentals. I think it's an issue with you fearing the amount of time you have.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this is a distrust in variance. Like, it's been bad to you, and it's probably caused you to perform below potential. So it's almost like I see you having a negative relationship with variance right now that needs to be corrected.
Yeah, like my perception is completely, that's what I told you, like even something that it would be normal, now it would affect me more, and it would generate worse thoughts than before, just because like...
You're sliding down the hill and you're wondering if you're ever going to get back up.
When we talk about like, this concern and this worry, like, is there any specific action that you think I could take?
Yeah,
to
speak to yourself as though you were speaking to a student. This is what Elliot Rowe taught me. It's probably more powerful than anything. Anytime I hit a blind spot with myself, he would say, I want you to think about this problem that you're having and tell me how you would help a student who had the same problem.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's do it. You have a student who's been running bad for a while. He's fearing that he might be going into deep makeup or might have to get staked. What do you tell him? You know he's a good player.
Yeah.
Speak to me like you would speak to him. To give him his trust back in his game. Because the thing about being coaches is we don't have people that speak to us like this anymore. Like, coaches should have a circle where we just give each other our confidence back and remind each other that we're coaches.
Yeah.
But what do you say to that guy? He thinks variance is never going to turn around.
I would first say if that's true. I would ask him if that's true. Because usually when we worry, it's just like an unnecessary illusion that we create.
Okay, I'll play him. It feels really true to me that this is an unfair model, that it's not going to turn around. And I'm really afraid that it's not going to turn around. And I know it's affecting me, but I can't stop being concerned when I play, because every tournament I lose, I'm closer to going bust. What do you say to him?
The first thing I would say is that you probably need to take a couple of days.
Nice.
Because from this state of mind, you can't play. You can't perform well. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I would just keep that part for myself. and definitely move down on mistakes until you get some of your confidence back, and you can see things clearly, or more clear, and I would say like I think the part about like I think first we need to like sort of make peace with the past. So I think I would start there on like addressing that we need to accept where we are right now.
I think that ties in a lot with asking if it's really true that variance is going to continue downward. For some reason, we feel like the past is going to repeat itself often. It leaves a wound on the mind, and then we start to believe that negative expectation is just the norm. When really the first question, it brings you back to the first question you would ask him, which is like, let's assess whether or not this is actually true. Because if you believe that that's true, basically what you're saying is, I'm a person who's treated unfairly by variance. That wouldn't be a problem unless it actually affected your quality of decision making. But what I'm saying is it does. We can have the law of attraction discussion some other day. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you believe that you are someone who is treated unfairly by reality, it will confirm in your actions exactly that through poor performance. You don't even really need to understand consciously how this works, because it's a subconscious mechanism. Self-sabotage at its finest. If your deepest fear is that you might be treated unfairly by reality, you're never going to put yourself authentically on the line to find out if that's not true. Because by actually playing at your potential, you risk everything. If you don't play at your potential, you never have to find out whether or not you were actually good enough to be treated fairly. Because you can always say, well, I know I didn't play that good, so it wasn't really the real me that lost that day. I didn't play well. But if you show up every day and play at your full potential, what you're risking is that reality shows you maybe you're not good enough to be treated fairly by variance. Which isn't true. Variance has nothing to do with you. It never did. But if you're playing this game in your head where the worst thing that could happen is you lay yourself completely on the battlefield, all potential on the table, and it's still not good enough. This is why guys don't talk to hot girls. Because when you go up to a beautiful woman, your biggest fear is not that she rejects you, it's that she actually gives you a chance. And then what do you do? What if variance actually gave you a chance? Would you be able to handle it? What if you won the next 4 bracelets? Like, are you ready for that type of possibility? Because it's possible.
Yeah, actually, that's what I've been trying to work on as well. It's funny, yeah. To be able to hold, right?
Do you feel like you can take all the steps that you just, the advice that you just gave to the fake student? Is there resistance to doing any of that, moving down?
I think I've been in resistance for the whole past, like the whole year.
To taking those steps?
I've been in denial. I think like just started like, no, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine, it's
okay.
gonna be fine. And like as I said, like last week, I got really honest with myself, and I'm like, because I play on Sunday, it was like, this is one of the softest Sundays. I'm like, shit, I'm playing so bad, you know, like I can't believe it. Like, what's going on? And then, you know, I was doing a course also, so it was easier for me because the course kind of brought it more. It was easier for me to see that I was just not being honest with myself. I was just lying to myself. So I did that, you know. I said where I am. I got this journal where I started writing how I feel in certain situations when I'm playing, and how I plan to work it out to make it more logic. And I sold actually for the tournaments here where that I wasn't planning to, and so you know, I think there are a lot of steps that I already took, and I was looking to take more. But right now I'm committed. I'm ready to just take action on this.
I want you to lower your volatility. I honestly think that would be the best thing at this stage, is lower your average buy-in, or speak to your friends and the fellow backers and be like, guys, I need you to take more of my action right now, because for some reason this is putting an amount of stress on me that's unhealthy for me, and I want to work the momentum back. Just be honest about it. Yeah, it's not something that you need to be embarrassed about at all. It's actually the very mature thing to do, and everybody will respect you for that. Anybody who knows anything about this career will look at you as a bigger person. Because a lot of time as coaches, like, we have a fear of moving down because we think that looks poorly on us as a coach. Like, we're going to lose reputation if we do that. But actually, if you're coming from a place of mature mindset, I think you should look at that as your biggest strength. Because at some point, every single one of your best students is going to go through what you're going through right now. And if you can't look at them in the eye humbly and be like, I've been through this and I know the way out, what you're going through is very twisted and dark, but this is how you get through it, that's what they're going to appreciate you for. not by being the guy who's just always better than them and never has to go through the same problems as them. I think the best coaches are the people who are able to speak from the perspective that I've been through the problem you're going through, and I'm not trying to deny that the problem exists. I'm trying to help you out of that darkness.
Yeah.
But you can't do that unless you go through it, and you can't get out of it unless you go about it in a humble way. It's just the key out of any bullshit downswing or depression is...
And it's funny because, you know, you just made me notice that I repeated the cycle unnecessarily. Because last year I was here, and there I was way worse. Like I was just more, like a little bit depressed with like lack of confidence. I took more action of myself. Like I was doing things way worse. And then I started working with a psychologist, and then he helped me a lot to just kind of like go back to my normal. And then, you know, won some tournaments, I started to get confidence back. All of that started to work out. Then I got this hit like a couple of months ago. So, you know, things were better, but I wasn't able to hold it. So I dig again. And which is what you said, like...
You doubled down on the wrong attitude, basically.
Yeah.
Like, gotta get it now. Like,
and now it's like, I noticed like I remember last year reading this book from Jared Tendler and thinking like, oh, okay, I don't have to do the exercises. So I got it. You know, I got it. And I think this is also like...
So how's your relationship to your own study process right now? Is it something that you really don't like to do? Or is it something that you rationalize against?
I like to do it. I like to study, but I get overwhelmed with so many so many things to study, like so many positions, like if I change this factor, everything changes. And then it's like, I think when I'm like relaxed, I kind of get it and simplify it and feel fine about it, kind of accept that, you know, I don't have to be perfect. But sometimes it's like, you know, this week I'm gonna focus on this, let's say, I don't know, whatever, like OP, CBET, whatever. And then like one week later, like I have to do this class for the team, and then like I need to shift my focus to something else and like create something else, and then there's a point where it feels like it's consuming, you know?
For sure.
So I think there's lack of organization for myself.
Yep. That's what it feels like. My advice, speaking from experience, going through that, which organization was not a strong suit of mine at all. In fact, like the data showed it. We have tests that we can take. In fact, I'd love to have you take this, and it'd be funny if you showed up as poorly organized, because I am too. When I took it, I think I maybe have gotten better because I brought awareness to it. But of the collection of poker players that we had take this exam, assessment test, it's basically a suitability test. Took a bunch of winners, a bunch of break-even players, a bunch of losers. Suitability test basically spit out data that said that the things that create the worst poker players are people who are very poorly organized and people who are overly self-critical. Not critical thinkers, but like people who are hard on themselves and not balancing enough self-acceptance. So the path that I took around this as someone who has to be working on my game and also delivering content is to really start to see that it's okay for me to prioritize my own hands. So here's what I would recommend. Start marking the most confusing hands in your session. Forget doing some rigid drill on out of position because you think you need to study OP play. See if that shows up in your tournament schedule that day, in the hands that you play. Mark 3 to 5 hands every day. Have those be the hands that you organize and create models around and actually work through. Now here's the catch. What you'll find is that 4 out of 5 of those hands are actually close enough spots that they shouldn't cause you stress. Get rid of them. And focus on the one hand where there's actually a big win rate upgrade, and that's your upgrade. And then take 5 new hands. Most of the time what happens is the overwhelm comes from a lack of discernment over what's actually generating enough EV to care about.
I always wonder that.
This requires you have a strong methodology that's able to get to the bottom of whether or not there's real EV, though. But I trust you guys do because you're the best in the world, pretty much. If you can determine that there's not actually enough EV on the table to care about, you can move on to the next hand. But if you got 5 hands that are just tormenting you because you have a misperception around how much each one is worth, you're never going to be able to take them off the table. The key to organization is prioritization. So it starts with where's the real EV, identifying that hand, and then making the real upgrade. And then bringing it to your students and just being like, hey guys, like I know, like I don't know what you guys do for if you're required to give a certain seminar, but like I would just start speaking to them. I would start bringing them up to your level almost and being like, here's what I'm working on. Here's where I made a big mistake in today's tournament. Here's what I learned. And here's the 4 hands that caused me unnecessary stress because they weren't even worth that much. Those are the best lessons we have. Students bring 10 hands to the table and I won't answer any of them. I just basically flip them off the table. Say this is worth marginal EV, next hand. But Nick, it caused me so much stress. I didn't know what to do at all. That's because you misperceive how much EV is on the table. Get it off the table. Next hand.
Good.
The inability to determine where the EV really is what takes most of our attention away, and then that's how we become unorganized. Yeah. It's your responsibility as a coach to identify where the EV actually is.
Great. Yeah, so like I feel like I'm on the way. Like I feel because what you said is what I started doing just like 3 weeks ago. I will just go through my hands from school, and I will call my students. Like I won't do scripts and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I will just do that.
Well, guys, let's just look at hands.
Yeah, and then I got sick and like I couldn't just like follow, so I couldn't finish it. But like my intuition was taking me there to do that, to study my hands, and I started mapping out like whether if I think this is lack of attention or if it's like a tilt or if it's like lack of understanding, like conceptually what I was doing. And I think, but I, as I said, like I haven't finished it, but because I got sick, and then I came here. But that's where I want to put my focus on. Yeah.
The most value you can offer them is how you fucked up and how you corrected it.
Yeah.
Which is, funny enough, the most value you can offer yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you can't teach for your students. That's something I noticed. It's a counterintuitive thing. You have to do the studying for yourself.
And show them how do they work.
And then deliver them the message. Hey, this is what I was dealing with. And then 9 times out of 10, 4 out of 5 of your students raise their hand and they're like, oh, I deal with that exact same thing. Thanks for figuring that out for me. Because that really helped. That perspective that you delivered was the exact thing I needed. Do more of that. And suddenly you have a stable of players who are basically you.
Yeah.
Or up to your level.
Yeah, that's what we want to create, actually.
But you're not going to be able to do that if you're depriving yourself of your own study time and then teaching for them. Funny enough, your students don't want to be taught. They want to see where you make mistakes and how you recover. That's what's inspiring.
That is true.
Okay. Gonna go play?
Yeah, man, thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
Yeah, thank you for the time and for the talk. I wanted to meet you anyway, so...
I'm so happy that you're friends with Yuri and Vitor because I'm trying to develop a better relationship with Brazil in general, so
cool.
Let's definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, I'm friends with like every guy on Brazil, every team,
Nice.
So